what's up? Red Panda Anthem. Red Panda, what's good?
Let's talk about one individual stock because we haven't done this in a while, and I'll pick a stock. AMD. AMD is something that we've talked about before previously. Advanced Micro Devices, chip company. It had a good historical run. Struggled in the last 6 months and year to date, like almost every stock. Are you still investing in AMD?
I am. I'm a long-term investor.
So what can you tell the people about AMD? Tell the people about AMD as a company because they might not even be familiar with it.
You know, I was thinking about this in the car when I was riding the other day. I'm gonna break down and this might be something that we do at MSG, but I'm gonna break down a company like Apple and show you how many companies are profiting off of being involved with a product like the iPhone. AMD is one of those companies, semiconductor, and again, if you're looking for semiconductors and you want to be in that space, obviously we told people what they are, right? Anything, pretty much everything that we have that's an electronic, a semiconductor is probably inside of it. And AMD is one of the top, so NVIDIA is one of the others. And so if I want to be in the space, I'm going to invest in the top two in the space. Like I said, AMD was one of those things that had option calls on it. But as I was doing the research on it and realized how many companies are relying on their chips, I said, look, this needs to be a long-term investment. And so I went obviously from having 500 shares to 1,000 shares on it. Has it pulled back? Obviously. I know it got up to 134. When I seen it get down to 92, I said, all right, well, let me go grab some more. That's when I got to a little bit over 1,000. But it's long-term for me. And it's crazy. When you start investing in things, you start seeing it everywhere. I remember being at Yankee games and I never even knew what AMD was. I just knew I saw the ad for it. Right. And then I started doing research on, like I said, semis and cameras and fridge. I'm looking at all these things. I'm like, they're involved in all of them. All right. I need to be in here. Taiwan Semiconductor is another one. Again, 50%, and I'll always run the numbers down. 50% of all semiconductors in the world are produced through them. But it's about how they're being produced, where they're going to, and what companies are relying on their products to be profitable companies. And AMD is one of those semiconductors. So I'm long-term on it.
Absolutely. And then when you guys are doing your research, you need to go look at the companies that are buying from them. And are those companies with high business margins or low? Because that is going to affect the growth of AMD. I have two low to boat prices for you. If it ever gets down to $39.06, that is the ideal price where I want to buy to hold for a 10-year period. Second one is $50 to $5.16. Love AMD, one of my favorites. That will not change. 39.06 and 55.16 are the two prices I would load the boat up on AMD for the long term.
Qualcomm is another one of those semiconductors too. If you look at the products, especially if you look at like the iPhone for sure, look at how reliant or how much Qualcomm's business is needed to make some of these products come to life. That's just a bonus.
Yeah.
All right. That was educational. Okay, former head of security for Twitter reveals executives have misled regulators and even the company's own board about its shortcomings. How will this help Elon's case, and will it lead to the collapse of Twitter?
So remember a few weeks ago when I said Twitter is not that valuable, and as usual, you know, I got attacked by some of the same people who attacking you about shooting a video with AB. This does not fare well. Like when I did my own independent research with the team, I think 25% to 31% of Twitter's usage is bots or non-human activity. So the head of security got fired, and they haven't been disclosing certain things publicly or to the board. Security is not as tight as it should be for a publicly traded company or a Fortune 500 company. I think this era, because of quantitative easing going away, because of the recession, and technically when history is written, maybe in 10 to 15 years, the recession technically started in 2020. We had a dead cat bounce in 21, and now we're going to slide down. We're going to see the death of a few social media companies. Because if you look at it at scale, other than distribution, what service do most social media companies provide a value? For them to have all those billions of users and still have not figured out their advertising platform at scale, Like if you talk to any advertiser, they never mention advertising on Twitter first. Never. That is a huge mistake. I think this is one of those situations where, as my parents used to tell me, whatever's done in the dark will come to light. We're starting to see that Twitter isn't as upstanding as we thought it is and should be. Twitter's on. I'm not saying it's dead, but they got diagnosed. Prognosis is not good. And I'm sure even with the Elon situation, he'll probably have to pay a fine of maybe $1 to $4 billion. But if the entire value of Twitter was him potentially acquiring it, and since then it has not went up, no good. It's at $40.46. We have to remember in 2013, the high was $74.50. The company stayed underneath $46 for 5 years. It's the only major tech company right now with no splits that's under $100. Basura. No good.
Yeah, I just want to give some context to the actual situation. So they said that they breached a settlement. The headline was extreme and egregious deficiencies. So in my opinion, I think it helps Elon's case, and here's why. So the first settlement was that they said that they falsely claimed that they had a solid security plan. The whistleblower said that they're running out of date and vulnerable software, and that executives withheld dire facts about the number of breaches and lack of protection for use of data. So that's the first thing, right? This is what the Federal Trade Commission. So this is like
Yes.
the alphabet boys here. And so that's the first chink, right? And then I don't know if people really remember this, but in May, Twitter had to settle a $150 million fine to settle allegations that they deceptively used email addresses and phone numbers it had collected to target advertising. Right? So the 150, like this is one of the largest settlements in the history of a tech company. And so now when Elon's saying like, hey, your numbers aren't right, I need to see the numbers, it helps his case. I feel like it helps his case, right? You've seen 2 proven times where they've falsified documentation. And if he's saying, in order to purchase this, I need to see the accurate documentation, and they've shown that they haven't done it in the past and actually settled a $150 million lawsuit.
Yep.
I think it helps in his, from his case, like, look, I said what I said because these are the reasons. If you're looking at this news, right, the SEC investigated, the Federal Trade Commission, Federal Trade Commission investigated, they came back with their findings. This probably was part of his case as to why he wanted to see some of those numbers.
A toxic user base on social media, fake news being reported, bots, those are all going to lead to the downfall of social at scale. And so for some of you who like, hey, TikTok has bots, yes, but when you engage in war, you need media or propaganda to build a case against your enemy. So if TikTok ultimately fails, and if China wins and they keep acquiring property in Africa and in South America and in Mexico and at scale here in the United States, what difference does it make? Their end goal is dramatically different. But Twitter has underperformed for the last 5 or 6 years. I think when even Jack said it the other day, he was like, the number one thing, if I can do it over again, I would have turned this app into a full-fledged company. Because once people come in and take over the company and they play the board meeting games, if you watch Succession or Billions, you already know what happened, how they tried to like push him out. And we see it with artists all the time. Artists will come in, great ideas. Well, we see Kanye going through it now with Gap and with Yeezy. Like, Kanye made a significant impact in the sneaker market at Nike, then went to Adidas, got the deal. Now all of a sudden, Adidas is remixing every Yeezy, but they're not under the Yeezy brand. Gross mismanagement. Twitter days are numbered. I think Elon will have to pay a small fine, but it's much better than acquiring that company for sure.
Streaming wars. So Nelson this month disclosed that the U.S. streaming Nielsen in July passed cable viewership for the first time. With cable viewership, I believe 34.8% of total viewing hours versus 34.4% for cable, 34.8% for streaming, Apple, Amazon, and Google.
Yeah, the thing is now we already know everyone's been cutting the cord for a long time. But one of the linchpins is going to be the NFL Sunday Ticket. And ultimately, the first person who in the streaming space that airs the Super Bowl, it's going to be lights out. Now it's heating up between Apple, Google, Amazon. Ultimately, I think Apple will probably get it. But the NFL, because of the fan base, is so huge. If they secure that, that will be the final linchpin to secure them. So during every recession and depression, there are a bunch of companies that fall off or get acquired. And this is why you have to be aggressive. So when I'm asking them about the idea bank and how much time they're spending on the business, when you're in the middle of an economic crisis, now is not the time to relax. I'm seeing a lot of y'all go out too much still. Not enough business devotion, not enough time, not enough content, not enough investing. Those businesses are going to fall by the wayside. And if you're seeing Apple put their foot on the gas to try and acquire rights to the NFL, what should you be trying to acquire or collaborate with or partner with a joint venture with to make sure your brand is sustained over the next 5 to 6 years? But if Apple gets that NFL market, you thought I was talking crazy about Netflix going under before. Oh, baby, it is over with. Also, when you guys say that Netflix isn't going under, name me 15 Netflix shows that you watched this year that you liked. Let's do a little poll. Because when I'm scrolling through, I don't see much. I went on HBO Max last night. There's like 9 things I want to watch. I think the new House of Dragons show is probably going to be more popular than Stranger Things and anything else that is slated. Netflix,
Probably.
we have a meeting. I would be sure to turn the tide and ease up off some of these statements, right?
It
But
just got renewed for season 2 after season
after
1.
one episode.
One episode. I think it was halfway through the episode. It was like, yo, season 2. 10 million is the most watched show in the platform's history. 10 million people watched it.
But they don't want you to dance with AB. And I don't know. I love Matt Money, but I don't know if he'll get renewed off the next season off one episode. You have to learn to evolve.
This that Red Panda Anthem. Ian, what's up? This that Red Panda Anthem. Red Panda, what's good? Red Panda Anthem. Your boy going up. I know they can't stand it.